Hello, and thank you so much for joining me for Tune In Tuesday. My name is Sharon Rogers, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Wells, Maine in the United States. And every second and fourth Tuesday, I like to bring you an online class via my YouTube channel. Now, tonight's class features the Decorative Trees bundle. This stamp set contains 14 different stamps, trees and embellishments for the trees, such as ornaments and stars, as well as some greetings. The bundle also includes a set of dies, 17 individual dies, and these dies are fantastic. You'll see that in just a few moments, but you can make some beautifully decorated trees, which is probably why it's called Decorative Trees. Let's get started. We're going to begin by embossing a piece of very vanilla cardstock that measures 3 3/4 by 5 inches with the Snowflake Sky 3D embossing folder. Now, the picture on the front seems to suggest that the heavier snow is at the top and the lighter is at the bottom, but you could certainly make it so that the lighter snow is at the top and the heavier is piling up at the bottom. Doesn't really matter, depends on which way you happen to like it on your card. And I'm just gonna put this in here, bring in my embossing machine, and to emboss, we need a number 1 plate. We need to put in our embossing folder and a number 4 plate. You can see some of my designer series paper has fallen in right now. We'll be using that in a moment. So we have some pretty snowflakes. Now, they're not white because we're using vanilla as our base, but really pretty, gives a nice depth to the bumps. Looks very obvious. Now we're going to bring in some designer series paper, and this designer series paper is the Season of Green and Gold designer series paper that was an online exclusive. Got some really pretty pieces here with some gold foil accents and then just some various greens here. So this is not just for Christmas, but of course that gold does add a Christmassy feel to it. I'm using this one that's just gold and vanilla, and this pattern that is gold and vanilla. I've already got a couple of scraps left over from another project that I did. Now, because this is designer series paper, I can make 2 passes with this tree outline. Or I can stack them together and make just 1 pass. I'm opting for that. We'll put our number 1 and our number 2 plate down. We have a number 3 plate, and then we're going to put our designer series paper down here and our die, and add that number 3 plate to it. Run it through. And you can see that we now have 2 pretty trees. Let's bring in the Decorative Trees stamp set. I'm going to be using this outline tree and this A Very Merry Christmas Sentiment. I have another piece of very vanilla that measures 3 3/4 by 5. We're going to be embossing this in the Wow Gold Embossing Powder. I'm going to ink up my stamp with Versamark. And I'm going to center it as much as possible. I'm going to be die cutting this, so centering it is going to allow me to use the piece that's left over for another project. Bring in my Wow Gold embossing powder. This powder comes in a package of 3 metallic powders: silver, gold, and copper. All right, that looks really good. I'm going to set this aside for just a second because we're not done embossing. I'm going to heat up my tree. Remember, you only want to heat until you've seen the powder turn to a nice shiny gold. So once it starts turning, you go to a different area, and then you keep moving along. If you stay in one spot too long, you're going to find that your paper might burn and scorch, but also your embossing powder is going to melt into the paper, and then it will no longer be raised, which is that part that is so much fun. Let me bring in that A Very Merry Christmas stamp. Now, the reason why I did not do them both together is because I'm stamping in Versamark. I can't see where the Versamark is, but now that this is embossed, I can see where I'm putting my sentiment. So there we have it. The other embossing powder had a chance to cool a little bit, and my heat gun did not cool off very much, so it doesn't take long for that to turn nice and shiny. And so that is done. All we need to do is die cut that. But first, I'm going to use my tray to funnel my embossing powder back into the jar. A jar of this goes a really long way. I love these Wow embossing powders. They provide good coverage, nice shine. I think they're a great product. All right, so now we're going to die cut this. We're going to bring back our dies, and specifically the tree outline. I'm going to bring in a couple pieces of tape. This is a low tack tape. You can use washi tape. You can use Post-it notes. Just put it where you want to hold it. We're going to run that through our die cutting machine. 1, 2, 3. Our die and paper, and then another 3 plate. Now, if I had been thinking, which I obviously was not, I would have started die cutting the other pieces. I have 3 trees. I could have cut a tree, a star, and a tree trunk. 3 different passes. I get the 3 elements needed. But now I'm going to have to do the other pieces one at a time. But there we go. That's that. Now I'm going to bring in a scrap piece of foil, and I've got this, which gives me a tree trunk elements and a star. I'm going to run that through our embossing machine. 3 trees, 3 passes. Could have been done by now had I thought ahead. All right, trunk and star. And a little skinny kind of trunk, which I could use as one, but you know, I have to cut three stars anyway. So I'll just do all 3 there. have my choice of trunks, whether I want the little skinny one or the wider one. And then one more pass. Oh, there's a cat hair on that one. That one was not Crash's hair. That one was Charlie's hair. Charlie is a beautiful black cat. So that's how I knew it was hers. All right, we are done die cutting. All right. So we've got our pieces there, and I forgot to drop this out. There we go. All right, now let's go ahead and put everything together. So we have our 3 trees. We just need to decide how we are arranging them. Like that. I think I want this gold one up here, maybe. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. The back trees are going to go on with just regular glue. Look, this other side, if you decide to change your mind, you can have green and gold together. That's pretty too. Really can't go wrong with this paper. There's only one design on this paper that I do not care for, and that's the one with the bells. All right. And that's just a personal preference. Oops, now it's running. There's an air bubble in there somewhere. And you know that because it still keeps going when you set it down. We're just going to take my other tree and kind of get some of that glue up with it. Take some of that off. So we try not to make too much of a mess. Kind of late, but let's put this one up here. And this one down here. And then we can add these little pieces, or we could add the big ones. Let's add the big ones. They're a little bit more substantial. And you've got a little bit of a thing to go by on the bottom of this tree where the trunk goes. I might actually have my trunk sideways. I think I do. Let's put it the other way. It doesn't really matter, of course. All right, I need a little scrap of paper here to kind of blot. Or I can just use my desk. Never mind. And I'm going to pick up this edge right here. Put this one down. It probably won't even show at all, is my guess. And then we've got this one right here as well. I probably started a little bit lower than I would normally like. That one's not going on with glue. That one is going on with dimensionals. Put one in that corner and this corner, and then most of the way up. Well, I guess those other trunks didn't even show. And do we want a little trunk here? No, we want a wider trunk. don't know if you caught that noise. My son, who's upstairs in his bedroom, just yawned very loudly. It's quite obnoxious when he yawns. Okay, there we go. And now we just need to put on our stars. You can put the stars on just with glue, which is what I think I'm going to do. Or you can put them on with mini dimensionals. I'm just going to put it on with a little bit of glue. Let's see, this way I think. There we go. And then one more. All right, and there is the front of our card. Let's bring in the card base. Now, Stampin' Up! No longer sells the thick Very Vanilla. I guess it wasn't a big enough seller. So we can do something that looks just like this, very subtle, or we can bring in a larger piece of gold foil and cut that down. So I'm going to cut it down to 4 by 5 1/4, which is just 1/4 inch larger in all the directions than my tree layer. And so then we have something that looks like that, and look at how rich and nice that looks. Now, the only problem with this is we're wasting a whole lot of gold foil. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to bring in our paper trimmer. I'm going to slide this into about, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit less. I'm just going to pick up my paper trimmer and start down from the top a bit and up from the bottom a bit. And then I'm going to go around and just keep cutting like that so that I'm cutting out a frame basically. You don't have to be too neat with it. As long as you're not going right to the ends, you're okay. If you go right to the end, you're going to be in trouble. Now I didn't quite cut into this enough, but I can tear this off right here. Be fine. Okay, so now I can use this for more star cutting or whatever suits my fancy. So now we just need to adhere this, and we want to adhere it out to the outside. The glue is just gonna be out here on the edges of the gold foil. There we go. So the gold foil sheets, they come 2 sheets in a package. And so you're only going to get about 12 cards that look just like this if you use that gold foil layer. However, that without the layer looked really nice as well. And so if you did that for the rest of them, you know, you sometimes have those people that you're closer to that you can spruce up your card a little bit more for. Now the inside, because this is just regular, very vanilla, I want to beef it up a little bit. So I'm going to bring in some of this designer series paper. I'm going to cut a piece 4 by 5 1/4. and layer that onto there. And then I'm going to cut a piece of Very Vanilla. That is, I'm going to go quite a bit smaller. I'm going to go 3.5 by 4 3/4, so that quite a bit of that shows around the outside. Again, if you don't want to quote unquote waste this designer series paper, because there will be only 2 sheets of this in there, you could have die cut the tree from this first, which again, if I'd been thinking, see, if I just cut this layer to begin with the right size, then I could have put that there and this over it, and nobody would have known. But hindsight is 2020. In the written tutorial for this, I will make mention of what you should, or how you should do it to maximize use of your paper, or papers, I should say. And so there we have that. And now, because both the inside and outside have layers, it is definitely a more substantial feeling card. All right, remember this piece that we used to die cut this embossed tree from? We're going to use this as one of the layers on our next card. And we're also going to use up some scraps from the last card. So I had some scraps left that had some edges that were freed up. And so I just cut a bunch of little strips here. What we're going to do is we're going to take our little strips and we're going to alternate them. And I think I'm going to alternate foil with no foil. Let's see. So there's a no foil one. And maybe I do another foil. No, let's do a plaid, even though that's not foiled. Let's do the plaid. And we'll put in maybe this one. And then this one. So we're just sort of getting an idea of placement that we want. I'm not really alternating foil and no foil, I guess. Let's see, we've got this. We can put this at the top. Doesn't look like much, right? But look at what happens when you place this over the top. Now, isn't that pretty? So that's what we are doing here. That's the effect that we are going for. Now, I do think I want to have a bit of a stronger color on the bottom. So perhaps these guys aren't on the bottom. Maybe this one, these two together are. So I'll just move these to the top. No problem. I'm going to flip, well, first I'm going to emboss this. So let's try to neatly kind of bring these over here, not losing our combination. Bring in our Stampin' Cut Emboss machine. We're going to bring in that Snowfall embossing folder. So here's plate number 1. Here's our embossing folder. Put our tree in. And I think I want the heavier snow at the top this time. Remember, you want your folded end to go through first. You'll find that if you don't heed that instruction, it won't be long before you have 2 pieces of a folder that won't work together. It will split and be ruined. Ask me how I know that. All right, so we've got that embossed now. going to flip it over and I'm going to apply some glue, and I'm just going to start about halfway right now, and I'm just outlining my tree. This is going to allow me to trim a little bit better afterwards. So remember, I want these sides showing, so I'm going to flip it over and place it down. And then I'm going to flip the next one over and place it down right next to it. I want them to abut. And then I'm going to flip the next one. All right, we just press it in there. Flip. And actually I've run out. No, I have a little bit of glue left over here. No, I don't think I have enough. So we're just gonna go ahead, and I probably could have outlined the whole tree because I'm moving fast enough, but just in case your glue line is very thin, you don't wanna have to mess with that. So there we go. We've placed that one down. Flip. I don't like just haphazardly saying, oh, I'm just going to pick one and put one over here. I do like seeing how they go together first. Because you don't want, so many of, all the light ones together, and then you get stuck with, just one odd dark one. Looks a little weird. So you're just going to keep going until you don't see any more hole from the die cut. I think this last one's going to be it. Yeah, it is. Now, if any of your strips went beyond the borders here, you could trim them pretty easily, because remember, you only had the glue right near the tree, so you can see how you can just pick that end up and trim it pretty easily. And then there we have our little patchwork tree. Another way that you can do this is you can lay these strips down first and then pop the tree up on dimensionals. Either way works. So now I have a piece of mossy meadow to bring in that is just 1/8 of an inch larger. So this is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And then I have a piece of very vanilla cardstock. This is the one I made into a card. It's got my score line right here. So there we have that. We're just gonna do this. Isn't that pretty? So simple, very striking. I will be using some dimensionals, but not on this layer. All right, let's see. Let's pick this up and wiggle it to make it work. Get it all straight. Looks pretty good. And then I'm going to use dimensionals here in my quest to use up my partial sheets. We'll cut some of those edges off. And add this. All right. There we go. Now we just need a sentiment. Let's go with the Season's Greetings sentiment. And I've brought in a scrap piece of Very Vanilla, and we're going to bring in our Mossy Meadow ink pad to coordinate with the Mossy Meadow colors. in this designer series paper. I'm wondering if my Mossy Meadow pad needs to be re-inked. This doesn't seem as dark as I think it should be. It's still beautiful though, so I'm not going to restamp it. I am fussy cutting though. I know some of you just went, then don't fussy cut. If you don't like to fussy cut, you don't need to. You can just put on a rectangular layer. But I think I wanted to try this fussy cutting. I did it maybe a month back when I did another card with the Decorative Trees that I absolutely loved. So I thought maybe we'll do this again. And then I'm going to just, this is a nice straight bottom. So we're going to make it a straight bottom. And so we have that. We could put this right underneath the tree. Yeah, that works. That works. I don't want to cover up some of those designs. I don't think so. We're just going to put this right underneath the tree. There we go. And I think it just needs something at the top. Let's bring in this gold and silver 3/16 trim combo pack. And I'm just going to use the gold one. And tie a little bow. What do you put on the top of your trees? An angel, a star, a bow. I've seen them all on trees, and I've used them all on trees. Oh, look at all the sparkle that this brings. So we have just this cute little bow that we can put on the top with a mini glue dot. I'm going to, because they're handy and I want to use these up as well, I'm going to just take one of the mini glue dots from leftover paper pumpkin. We'll stick that there. And there we go. How cute is that? Oh, so cute. So cute. Remember how I said you could put dimensionals on the back of this top layer and achieve a slightly different look? That is true, but you have to do it in an alternate way. And so let me show you how you can do that and how it will look differently. So I've got this layer again, and I have already embossed it. And I'm gonna, you can see I've already cut the Mossy Meadow piece as well. And I just take a little bit of a pencil in here and sort of do a rough tracing. I'm not getting too close to the edge because I don't want my pencil marks to ever show on the edge. I don't want it to rub up against here and show, is what I'm saying. So I can sort of see where my tree outline is. It's hard for you to see probably. I can barely see it. The other thing you can know is you just don't want your strips to come very close to the edge here. So as long as you keep your strips from within the edge, you're fine. So if I were using this piece, for instance, I'm going to trim it down. Honestly, I would not trim it that way. I would hack it off with my hands probably. So, but I just want to make sure that, like when I put this on, it goes across the whole edge. And I noticed that this piece didn't show very much. So let's go ahead and do that. Fill it up more. Doesn't mean that it's always gonna, all of it's gonna show. Yeah, and actually this top one's not going to show, but the rest looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this bottom one. I'm going to keep them all in place. And I can put glue all over the back of this strip. All right, and that's how this strip is laying down. And so now I'm going to just push these up a little bit. Has to abut that. And from time to time, you can just still go back in here and check. Am I covering everything up? Yes, I am. That hole just needs to be filled in. It is completely in there. Yes, it is. Now, for this one, I think I'm going to adjust it a little bit. I want to put this star kind of right there. It doesn't really matter because I'm putting a bow up there anyway. It looks a little bit long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this, and this is going to be where I want it if I've got it aligned right here with this other one. So that's how I know I'm going to get my star on the spot that I want it to be. Not that it really matters. It doesn't. All right, so now I have that all done. Let's go ahead and bring in my dimensionals here. And what I want to do is outline my tree with them quite a bit. So I'm going to put this is the back side. I'm going to put my dimensionals near the tree edges. Not just there, but let's see. We do still have a couple of nice dimensionals here for our use. And let's go ahead. Let's see. And then we can just take some of these and put them out on the edges. So you do use quite a few dimensionals this way, but the look is kind of cool. Ooh, and I've almost used them all up. All right. Take the dimensionals off the back. Time to charge my phone. I look up and I've got the little warning of the low battery, which, if you know me, should not surprise you at all. There we go. And so can you see it's just a little bit different? There's just that spacing in there that adds a bit of difference. A little bit flatter, a little more dimension. Get some shadows in here. Both beautiful. All right, just a quick commercial break here. If you are thinking that there are some Stampin' Up! Products that you would like to purchase, whether it's the Decorative Trees bundle, or it's cardstock and envelopes for your Christmas cards, or maybe kits to give away as gifts, an order of $35 or more placed in my online store using the link in the description of this video will qualify you to receive tonight's class card kit. The card kit will contain all the consumable supplies, that's cardstock and embellishments, for you to recreate each of the 3 cards that I'm creating tonight, plus plus a bonus fourth card. That fourth card is only available to those making that $35 or more purchase. Now, if your order is $60 or more, I will not only send you the class card kit, including that bonus fourth card, I will send you a package of 20 sheets of 6x6 designer series paper. Now, the papers may have started out as 12x12s, or they may have been 6x6, but it will be an eclectic assortment of wonderful Stampin' Up! Designer series paper. Some may be current, much of it will be retired, but it is all fabulous paper. And I know that you will enjoy it. All right, let's end our commercial break and get back to creating fabulous cards with the Decorative Trees bundle. This next card we're going to be using, so there's so many dies in this set. There's 17, I think. Yeah, 17 different dies. Things that, you know, garland for the trees or bows for the trees, bulbs for the trees. Lots of trees themselves. We've got small ones. This has holly and berries for the design. This just has all sorts of swirlies, and this is kind of Charlie Brownish tree. And then there are these kind of decorative ones. I'm going to use a snowflake one because I absolutely love it. I use this plaid one on another one. I love that one as well. I'm sure I love them all. But I'm going to take a piece of basic white. And I use the thick basic white on this one. It doesn't really matter which one you use. I just like, because it's so intricate, I thought, well, let's use the thick. It might hold up firmer. So this is part of an adhesive sheet. I just cut this down to size. And I'm peeling off the backing on one side. I'm trying to anyways. All right. And I'm sticking it to this piece of basic white cardstock. And you just want to make sure that when you're putting this on here, that it does not extend right to the very edges. So you want your cardstock to be larger than your adhesive sheet. I'm going to run that through the embossing folder and paying attention to where my adhesive sheet is. And you don't need the adhesive sheet to cover the whole tree. I think this does, or it comes, yeah, it comes very, very close. But as long as most of it's there, it'll all stick. So I'm going to bring in my embossing machine. 1, 2, 3. And let's see, I've got to find my other 3 plate. It's around here somewhere. We are going to cut a background tree of Night of Navy. And then we're going to cut this one. Line up my plates a little bit better. There you go. Here's my other number 3 plate. I actually don't think this is the one I was using. This is a little bit more warped than the other one that I was using, but this is the one that I put my hands on first. So now we have a nice little blue tree. All right, let's bring in my little brush. Now, this brush is old. You can see my dog chewed it. But now they have an attachment that has this brush that goes on the end of the Take Your Pick tool. And just help some of these little pieces out of here. And so some of them come out pretty easily. A little bit The adhesive backing is still on here. But here's a little trick. Let me get this. It's kind of intricate, so sometimes they kind of stick in there a little bit. Oops. That's the other one that I did. It is easier to poke out these little pieces with the adhesive backing still on. Otherwise, they tend to stick to everything. They stick to itself, everything. But sometimes you get the rest of them to kind of come out when you peel off the adhesive backing. So I'm just poking these out a little bit. I don't usually like to have to do all that fussy poking and stuff, but honestly, with this one, it's really, really worth it. I love this one. I'm just going to make sure that I've got pieces out. I do. I'm going to take my blue base. Look at this stuff. It just sticks to you everywhere. All right. And now the adhesive sheets are sticky, but they're not so sticky that you can't lift them off and reposition if you need to. In fact, let's see. So I am just pressing towards the edge of my blue. There we go, lining it up as I go. And so there, now we have that. Isn't that just so pretty, the white on the blue? All right, let me get some of these scraps out of the way. All right, I did a little experimenting because I didn't really like how everything turned out at first. So I've decided to pull in a piece of Balmy Blue. I'm going to take the coordinating ink, Balmy Blue ink. I'm going to stamp Oh Christmas Tree on an angle repeatedly in the background here. And just keep going across until the whole thing is filled up. There we go. Just gives a very, very subtle look. Okay. If I bring in a piece of basic white, that really makes that pop right there. And then if we have our tree, oh, look at how pretty that is. The only thing that's missing is a little bit of, I don't know, bling or something, right? So let's, of course, we can add that. That's going to be easy enough to do. And one of my favorite blings at Christmas time is just our basic rhinestones. Could also bring in some ribbon if you wanted to. Look at the pretty snow, how that just pops right on there. I'm going to pull in this little tree guy. And we'll stamp him in a pretty light blue. I don't think I'm going to do the lightest blue because that's really, really light inside. But I might bring in my Misty Moonlight. Stamp off. And then stamp right in the middle here. Just gives a nice tiny little bit of tree there. And I got a little bit of ink on the front, but you know what? You cannot tell because it's the same color as the background. Oh, let's put a greeting on the inside. Season's greeting or a very Merry Christmas. Or may your dreams be merry. I'm going to say a very Merry Christmas. I wish there was a wishing you for the outside to go along with this a very Merry Christmas. But there isn't, so we'll just make do. And there we go. There's our first card. And here we go. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you found these cards to be right up your alley and ones that you will want to recreate. I know that I've had a lot of fun playing with the Decorative Trees bundle, and I'm going to have more fun. In fact, one of these cards is going to be my primary Christmas card this year, I'm pretty sure. But then again, there's lots of time between now and Christmas for me to change my mind and fall in love with something else. But I know that at least one of these cards is going out to some of my family and friends. Have a great rest of your week, everyone. And don't forget, if you would like the class card kit, you'll need to place your order by Sunday at 9 p.m.